Elena Vasquez stepped off the transport ship and looked around the massive space station. The metal walls stretched up so high she could barely see the ceiling. Strange lights blinked in patterns she did not understand. The air smelled different here, like metal and something else she could not name. "Welcome to Senate Station Omega," said her assistant James. He was young and nervous. This was his first time in space, too. "The meeting starts in 2 hours," Elena nodded. She was Earth's new ambassador to the Galactic Senate. After 3 years of tests and talks, humans had finally been accepted into the big group of alien species that ruled this part of the galaxy. Today was her first real meeting with all the other species. They walked through long hallways. Elena saw many strange things. The walls had special air vents that blew different gases for different aliens. Some areas had very bright lights, others were almost dark. The floor changed from metal to something soft and squishy, then back to metal again. "There." James pointed ahead. "That's the Senate chambers." Elena stopped and stared. In front of the big doors, she saw the strangest sight of her life. Dozens of alien beings were walking around, but they all wore some kind of armor or protective gear. A tall, thin creature with 4 arms had a thick metal suit covering its whole body. Next to it, a being that looked like a walking crystal was surrounded by a shimmering energy field. Another alien that seemed to be made of plants had grown extra bark all over itself, making it look like a walking tree trunk. "Why are they all wearing armor?" Elena asked. "Are we going into battle?" James checked his notes. "The files don't say. Maybe it's just their custom?" An alien approached them. It moved on 6 legs and had a shell like a giant crab. When it spoke, a small device on its chest made the words into English. "You must be the human delegates," the alien said. "I am Arbitrator Kexelin of the Coastal Federation. Welcome to your first Senate meeting." "Thank you," Elena said. "I'm Elena Vasquez. Can I ask why everyone is wearing protective gear? Do we need armor too?" Kexelin's shell seemed to change color slightly. "Oh no, humans do not need armor. You have special permission to attend without protection." "Special permission?" "Yes, it was decided after much debate. Humans are the only species allowed in the chambers without safety gear." Elena felt confused. But why does everyone else need it? Is there danger in the meeting room? Kexelin was quiet for a moment. The device on its chest made small clicking sounds. Finally, it spoke again. "The danger, Ambassador Vasquez, is you." Before Elena could ask what that meant, Kexelin turned and walked away on its 6 legs. Elena and James looked at each other with wide eyes. "What did it mean?" James whispered. "I don't know," Elena said, "but I think we're about to find out." They followed the crowd of armored aliens toward the chamber doors. As they walked, Elena noticed something else strange. The other aliens seemed nervous around her and James. When they got too close, the aliens moved away. Some even seemed to be watching them from behind their protective gear. The chamber doors opened with a deep sound like thunder. Inside, Elena saw the most amazing room she had ever seen. It was round and huge, with seats going up in circles like a giant bowl. Each section was built for different types of aliens. Some seats were filled with water for the fish-like species. Others glowed with heat for aliens that needed warmth. Some areas were very cold, with ice crystals floating in the air. Elena and James were shown to a small section marked Human Delegation. Their seats were simple chairs, nothing special. But Elena noticed that their section was surrounded by empty space. The nearest alien seats were much farther away than they needed to be. As more aliens entered the chamber, Elena watched them carefully. She saw bug-like creatures with extra armor plates stuck to their shells. Floating gas beings had thick energy barriers around them. Even the robots had extra shielding. "Attention all delegates," a voice said from speakers around the room. "Today we welcome the human delegation to their first official Senate meeting. Please remember that special protocols are in effect." Elena raised her hand. "Excuse me, what are the special protocols?" The voice paused. "All non-human delegates must maintain protective gear at all times. Emotional dampening fields are active. Emergency medical teams are on standby." "Medical teams?" Elena stood up. "Why do we need medical teams for a political meeting?" She noticed that when she stood up, many aliens in the room seemed to lean back in their seats. Some put up extra energy shields. A few even seemed to be shaking slightly. An alien that looked like a walking flower spoke up. Its voice was translated by speakers. "Perhaps the human delegate should be briefed on the safety measures before we begin." "What safety measures?" Elena's voice was getting louder. She was starting to feel frustrated. "Nobody will tell us what's going on. As her voice rose, something very strange happened. Around the room, Elena saw aliens reacting in ways that made no sense. The flower-like alien pulled its petals in tight. The crystal being's energy fields flickered. Even the robots seemed to dim their lights. One alien, shaped like a large bird with metal feathers, spoke in a shaky voice. The human is experiencing emotional distress. Should we increase the dampening fields? I'm not distressed, Elena said, but she was lying. She was confused and worried and starting to get angry. I just want to know why everyone is afraid of us. The bird alien's metal feathers were now standing up like it was scared. Other aliens were making noises, clicks, whistles, beeps. Some were backing away, even though they were already far from the human section. Finally, a large alien that looked like it was made of living water stood up. It wore what looked like a clear tank around its whole body. Ambassador Vasquez, it said through its translator. We apologize. You should have been told before the meeting. The armor and protection is not to keep us safe from human weapons or human violence. Elena sat down slowly. Then what? The water alien's tank seemed to ripple. It is to protect us from human emotions. The chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. Our emotions? 3 years ago, during your species trial period, we learned something about humans that changed everything. Your people do not just feel emotions. You broadcast them. You project them into the minds of other beings without knowing it. Elena felt her mouth open, but no words came out. The water alien continued. When humans feel angry, other species feel echoes of that anger. When humans feel sad, we feel sad too. When humans feel joy or hope or love, those emotions spread to everyone around them. But that's impossible, James whispered. We thought so too, said the alien, until we experienced it ourselves. Human emotions are so strong and pure that they can overwhelm the minds of species that never evolved such feelings. The armor protects us from being accidentally controlled by human emotional states. Elena looked around the chamber at all the protected aliens. You're all afraid of our feelings? Not afraid, the water alien said gently. But we must be careful. Human emotions can make us do things we would never normally do. They can make us agree to things that go against our nature. They can make us care about beings we do not even know. Elena sat back in her chair, stunned. Humans had been accepted into the Galactic Senate not because they were smart or strong or advanced. They had been accepted because their emotions were so powerful they could accidentally influence entire alien civilizations. As the meeting began, Elena realized that being human in a galaxy full of aliens was going to be much more complicated than anyone on Earth had ever imagined. After the first day of meetings, Elena could not sleep. She kept thinking about what the water alien had told her. Human emotions could control other species? It seemed crazy, but she had seen how the aliens reacted when she got upset. The next morning, Arbitrator Kexelin came to visit her in the human quarters. The crab-like alien still wore its protective shell, but it seemed more relaxed than before. I have come to explain what happened 3 years ago, Kexelin said. You deserve to know the full story. Elena and James sat down across from the alien. Please tell us everything. Kexelin's shell changed colors as it spoke. It began with a human named Marcus Chen. He was your first trade representative here during your trial period. A good man, very honest and fair. The alien activated a holographic projector. Images appeared in the air showing the Senate chamber 3 years ago. Elena saw a middle-aged human man sitting alone in the same section where she had sat yesterday. He wore a simple business suit and looked nervous but determined. Marcus was attending a meeting about a trade dispute. Kexelin continued. 2 small star systems were fighting over mining rights. Very common, very boring. These meetings usually take weeks to resolve because nobody wants to compromise. In the hologram, Elena could see various aliens in the chamber, but none of them were wearing armor or protective gear. They looked relaxed, normal. Watch what happens when the argument begins, Kexelin said. The hologram showed aliens starting to get agitated. The bug-like species began releasing small clouds of colored gas from their bodies. The crystal beings started glowing brighter and making high-pitched sounds. The plant aliens spread their leaves wide and began dropping small spores into the air. This is normal behavior for heated debates, Kexelin explained. Each species has natural ways of showing dominance or stress. The gas clouds make other species feel drowsy and submissive. The crystal sounds can cause headaches. The plant spores make thinking difficult. All perfectly legal and expected. Elena watched as the chamber filled with various alien conflict behaviors. It looked chaotic and dangerous to her, but the aliens seemed used to it. Then Marcus Chen stood up, Kexlin said. In the hologram, Elena saw the human man rise from his chair. He did not release any gases or make loud sounds or glow with energy. He just stood there and began to speak. What did he say? Elena asked. He said he was disappointed in all of them, Kexlin replied. He said they were acting like children fighting over toys while real people would suffer from their delay. He said he expected better from advanced civilizations. Elena could not hear the words in the hologram, but she could see Marcus Chen speaking calmly and clearly. He did not shout or wave his arms. He just talked like a teacher speaking to misbehaving students. Watch the other delegates, Kexlin said. As Marcus spoke, strange things began happening around the chamber. The bug aliens stopped releasing their gas clouds and seemed to slump in their seats. The crystal beings dimmed their lights and their sounds became softer, sadder. The plant aliens pulled in their leaves and stopped dropping spores. What's happening to them? James asked. They were feeling what Marcus felt, Kexlin said. His disappointment became their disappointment. His moral judgment became their moral judgment. For the first time in their lives, these species felt something they had never experienced before. Shame. Elena watched in amazement as the chaos in the chamber died down. Aliens who had been aggressive moments before now looked like scolded children. But that's impossible, Elena said. Emotions can't just jump from one person to another. That's what we thought too, Kexlin said. But we were wrong. We ran tests afterwards. Human brains work differently than ours. When you feel something strongly, you unconsciously send out signals. Brainwaves, pheromones, micro-expressions, voice tones. Your species evolved to read and share emotions because it helped you survive. Kexlin changed the hologram to show brain scans and scientific charts. Other species evolved emotions only for their own kind. But humans lived in such diverse environments that you learned to communicate feelings across different types of consciousness. You can make a dog feel guilty, a horse feel calm, even a computer feel something. Elena stared at the data. So when Marcus felt disappointed, every alien in the room felt echoes of that disappointment, even though their species had never evolved such feelings. It was like suddenly experiencing a new color or hearing a sound that doesn't exist. The hologram returned to the Senate chamber. Elena watched as Marcus continued speaking. The aliens around him began nodding and making agreement sounds. Species that had been enemies for centuries were suddenly working together. The trade dispute was resolved in 1 hour, Kexlin said. Both sides agreed to share the mining rights equally and use the profits to help poor worlds. It was the fastest resolution in Senate history. That sounds like a good thing, Elena said. Kexlin's shell turned darker colors. It was terrifying. These aliens had made decisions that went against millions of years of evolution. The bug species had never shared resources with outsiders. It was against their nature. The crystal beings had never considered helping other worlds. They were naturally selfish. But human emotions had overridden their basic instincts. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What happened after? Panic, Kexlin said simply. Emergency meetings were called. Scientists studied recordings of the session. Medical teams examined the affected delegates. Everyone wanted to know, had humans somehow taken control of their minds? The hologram showed news broadcasts and scientific conferences. Alien experts were debating and arguing. Some looked frightened, others curious. The results were clear, Kexlin continued. Humans had not controlled anyone. You had simply shared your emotions so powerfully that other species could feel them too. It was like emotional contagion, but across species barriers that had never been crossed before. Is that why humans were almost rejected from the Senate? James asked. Yes, many species voted to ban humans completely. They said you were too dangerous, that your emotions could be used as weapons. Others argued that humans were not doing it on purpose and should be allowed to join if proper safety measures were taken. Elena thought about all the armor and protective gear she had seen. The safety measures being the protective equipment. Exactly. Emotional dampening fields, psychological barriers, distance requirements, all designed to let aliens interact with humans without being overwhelmed by human feelings. Elena felt sick to her stomach. So we're like emotional bullies? We force our feelings on others without meaning to. Kexlin's color changed to what Elena was starting to recognize as sympathy. Not bullies. Children with incredible power who don't know their own strength. That is why you were accepted despite the fear. The Senate decided that human emotional abilities could be very valuable if properly controlled. Valuable how? Marcus Chen's session solved a centuries-old problem in 1 hour through compromise and empathy. Imagine what could be accomplished if humans learned to use their emotional influence deliberately and carefully. Elena looked at the hologram showing Marcus Chen leaving the chamber. He looked confused and tired, with no idea that he had just changed galactic politics forever. Does Marcus know what he did? Elena asked. We told him later. He was very upset. He felt guilty for accidentally influencing others. Very human reaction, feeling responsible for unintended consequences. Elena realized she was feeling the same guilt right now. The thought that her emotions could control others without her permission made her feel terrible. There, Kexelin said. You are doing it now. I can feel your guilt and distress through my protective shell, though only faintly. If I were unprotected, I would probably start feeling guilty too, even though I have done nothing wrong. Elena tried to calm herself, but knowing that her feelings were affecting the alien made her feel worse. This is why we need the protection, Kexelin said gently. Not because humans are evil, but because human emotions are so pure and strong that they can overwhelm minds that never learned to handle such feelings. Elena nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand why the other aliens seemed so nervous around her. She was like a walking emotional storm, broadcasting feelings that could accidentally control anyone who got too close. The question now was, what was she supposed to do with this knowledge? Kexelin activated another hologram. Now I will show you exactly what happened during Marcus Chen's session. You need to understand how powerful human emotions can be. The image showed the Senate chamber from 3 years ago. Marcus Chen sat in the human section, looking small and nervous among all the alien delegates. The trade dispute was about a planet called Kepler 442c. 2 alien civilizations wanted to mine its rare crystals. The Zephyrian Empire claimed the planet first, Kexelin explained, pointing to a group of tall, blue-skinned aliens with large heads. But the Crystalline Syndicate said they had already started mining operations. Elena watched as representatives from both groups stood up to argue. The Zephyrians were calm and logical, presenting charts and legal documents. The crystalline beings were more emotional, their bodies glowing brighter as they spoke. This type of dispute usually takes months to resolve, Kexelin said. Each side presents evidence, calls witnesses, makes deals with other species for support. It becomes very political and complicated. In the hologram, more alien species began taking sides. The bug-like hive mind supported the Zephyrians because of an old trade agreement. The plant-based seedlings backed the Crystalline Syndicate because they disliked the Zephyrian Empire. Watch how the debate escalates, Kexelin said. As the argument continued, the aliens began displaying their natural conflict behaviors. The Zephyrians released pheromones that made other species feel drowsy and compliant. The crystalline beings started emitting high-frequency sounds that caused headaches and confusion. The hive mind responded by releasing their own chemical clouds, bright yellow, gas that made other species feel anxious and paranoid. The seedlings spread spores that caused temporary memory problems. This is biological warfare, Elena said, watching the chamber fill with various gases and energy fields. Not warfare, diplomacy, Kexelin corrected. Each species evolved these abilities to gain advantage during negotiations. It's considered normal and fair since everyone can do something similar. Elena saw other species joining in. The aquatic delegates created ultrasonic vibrations that made air-breathing species feel nauseous. The energy beings generated electromagnetic pulses that interfered with electronic equipment. How do you get anything done like this? James asked. Very slowly and with great difficulty, Kexelin admitted. Most sessions end with everyone too affected by the various biological influences to think clearly. Then we take breaks, recover, and try again later. In the hologram, the chamber was becoming chaotic. Aliens were swaying from chemical effects, holding their heads from sonic attacks, and stumbling from biological interference. The air was thick with colored gases and energy fields. Then Marcus Chen stood up. Stop this, he said. His voice was not loud, but somehow it cut through all the noise and chaos. Elena watched as something incredible happened. The human's voice carried something she had never heard before. Pure moral authority mixed with deep disappointment. You're supposed to be advanced civilizations, Marcus continued. but you're acting like animals fighting over scraps. There are billions of people who will be affected by your decision, and you're playing games with chemical weapons." As Marcus spoke, the aliens in the chamber began to change. The Zephyrians stopped releasing their drowsy pheromones. The crystalline beings dimmed their painful sounds. One by one, each species stopped their biological attacks. "What's happening to them?" Helena asked. "They're feeling what Marcus feels," Kexlin said. "Human disappointment is overwhelming. Your species has such strong moral emotions that they can override basic survival instincts in other beings." Elena watched as the proud Zephyrian ambassador actually hung his large head in shame. The crystalline delegate's glow became sad and blue instead of angry red. Marcus was not finished. "This planet you're fighting over, have any of you even been there? Do you know what kind of life exists on it?" He activated his own hologram showing Kepler 442c. It was a beautiful world with purple oceans and golden continents. Small cities dotted the surface. "There are people living there," Marcus said. "Primitive by your standards, but they have families, art, music. They've been farming those crystal formations for thousands of years. They're not advanced enough to join the Senate or defend themselves, but they're still people." Elena could see the emotional impact of Marcus's words spreading through the chamber like ripples in water. Aliens who had never considered the welfare of primitive species were suddenly feeling protective instincts they didn't understand. "In your legal arguments," Marcus continued, "neither side mentioned the natives once. You've been debating who gets to strip mine someone else's homeworld, and you haven't even asked if it's right." The Zephyrian ambassador tried to speak. "The primitive species are not. We don't usually—" His voice trailed off as he struggled with concepts his species had never developed. "What Marcus is doing is impossible," Kexlin explained to Elena. "He's making them feel empathy for strangers. Zephyrians only care about their own kind, it's how they evolved. But human emotions are so strong they're overriding millions of years of evolution." In the hologram, Elena saw the crystalline delegate actually start to cry. Tears of liquid crystal fell from its eyes as it felt genuine sadness for the first time in its life. I did not know they had families," the crystalline being said. "We only saw the mining potential. This feeling, what is this feeling?" "Guilt," Marcus said gently. "It means you know you were about to do something wrong." More aliens began experiencing emotions they had never felt before. The hive mind, who thought only as a collective, began feeling individual responsibility. The seedlings, who only cared about their own forest worlds, felt concern for strangers on a distant planet. "This is terrifying to watch," Kexlin said. "Entire species are having their core nature changed by exposure to human emotion." Elena watched as the debate completely transformed. Instead of arguing about mining rights, the aliens began discussing how to protect the native population. Species that had been enemies for centuries started working together to find solutions that would help everyone. "What if we shared the mining operation?" the Zephyrian ambassador suggested. "Small-scale extraction that doesn't harm the native cities. We could offer them technology in exchange for mining rights," the crystalline delegate added. "Help them advance peacefully. The profits could fund protection for other primitive worlds," suggested a delegate from the hive mind. Marcus smiled, and Elena could see that his happiness spread through the chamber too. The aliens began glowing brighter, standing taller, feeling proud of their new ideas. In just 2 hours, the aliens had completely resolved their dispute and created a new protection treaty for primitive worlds. They had also established a joint mining operation that would benefit everyone, including the natives of Kepler 442c. "It was the most productive Senate session in recorded history," Kexlin said, "and the most frightening." "Why frightening?" Elena asked. "Because afterwards, when Marcus left and the emotional influence faded, many of the delegates realized what had happened. They had made decisions completely against their nature. The Zephyrians had given up a valuable mining claim. The crystalline syndicate had agreed to share profits with primitives. The hive mind had acted as individuals. Elena began to understand. They felt like they had been controlled. Exactly. Even though Marcus had not intended to influence anyone, his emotions had been so powerful that they had essentially overridden the free will of dozens of alien species. In the hologram, Elena watched as Marcus gathered his papers and left the chamber. He looked tired but happy, thinking he had just participated in good diplomacy. He had no idea that he had accidentally demonstrated the most powerful form of mind control anyone had ever seen. Some species called for Marcus to be arrested as a war criminal, Kexelin continued. Others wanted to study him like a laboratory specimen. A few even suggested that humans should be enslaved and used as emotional weapons. Elena felt sick. But you didn't do any of those things. No. After much debate, we decided that humans were not evil, just dangerous. Like children with nuclear weapons, innocent but capable of incredible harm without meaning to. Elena looked at the empty hologram space where Marcus had been. One human just trying to do the right thing had accidentally changed the course of galactic civilization. Now you understand why we wear protection, Kexelin said. Not because we hate humans, but because human emotions are so pure and powerful that they can rewrite the basic nature of any species that gets too close. Elena nodded, finally understanding the true weight of being human in a galaxy full of aliens. They weren't just diplomats or traders or explorers. They were walking emotional bombs that could accidentally reshape entire civilizations with nothing more than their feelings. Over the next few days, Elena met with representatives from different alien species. Each one wanted to explain how humans affected their people. Elena was starting to understand that the impact of human emotions went much deeper than she had imagined. Dr. Kess from the Saurian hegemony was the first to visit. The reptile-like alien was tall and covered in green scales, with large yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. It wore a clear helmet that covered its entire head. The helmet filters out human pheromones and micro-expressions, Dr. Kess explained. Without it, I would begin to feel things that my species has never felt in 50 million years of evolution. What kind of things? Elena asked. Parental love for strangers, Dr. Kess said. Saurians only care for our own eggs and young. But when exposed to human emotions, we begin to feel protective toward any young creature, even from other species. It's deeply disturbing. Dr. Kess showed Elena video recordings of Saurian scientists who had worked with unprotected humans during the early contact period. In the videos, the normally cold and logical reptiles were gently caring for alien animals, feeding orphaned creatures, even adopting babies from other species. This behavior nearly caused a civil war on our home world, Dr. Kess continued. Saurians who had been exposed to humans were suddenly spending resources on non-Saurian children. Our economy was disrupted. Our social structure began to collapse. Elena felt horrible. We didn't mean to hurt your civilization. We know. That's what makes it so dangerous. Humans don't try to control us, you just naturally broadcast emotions that we cannot resist. It's like a virus that spreads through consciousness itself. Next, Elena met with Harmony 7 of Crystalline Thought, a representative of the crystal beings. The alien looked like a walking diamond, about 7 feet tall and constantly glowing with soft blue light. It was surrounded by a shimmering energy field. The field blocks human emotional resonance, Harmony explained. Without it, human feelings cause our crystalline structure to vibrate in dangerous ways. Dangerous how? We are beings of pure logic and mathematics. Our thoughts are based on perfect crystal formations inside our bodies. But human emotions introduce chaos into our systems. Harmony showed Elena recordings of crystal beings who had been exposed to human emotions. Instead of glowing with steady blue light, they flickered rapidly through many colors. Their movements became erratic and uncontrolled. When we feel human emotions, our logical processes break down, Harmony said. We begin making decisions based on feelings instead of calculations. For a crystal being, this is like a computer virus. Some of our people even became permanently damaged from emotional exposure. Elena was horrified. Permanently damaged? They can no longer think purely. They feel things like happiness and sadness and love. By our standards, they are insane. By human standards, they have become more alive than they ever were before. The strangest meeting was with Root Singer of the Deep Forest, one of the plant-like seedlings. The alien looked like a walking tree with moving branches for arms and roots for feet. It wore a biosuit that covered its entire body with artificial bark. Humans make us feel individual, Root Singer explained. This is terrifying for beings who have always been connected to the forest mind. Elena learned that seedlings were not really individuals at all. They were more like fingers of a giant planetary organism. Each seedling was connected to all others through root networks and chemical signals. When we are near humans, we begin to feel separate from the forest mind. Root Singer continued. We start having our own thoughts, our own desires. We become lonely. Loneliness is not a concept that existed in our language before we met humans. Root Singer showed Elena videos of seedlings who had been exposed to human emotions. Instead of moving in perfect harmony with each other, they began acting independently. Some even left their forest worlds to explore the galaxy alone, something no seedling had ever done before. Are they happier as individuals? Elena asked. We don't know. The concept of individual happiness doesn't exist in our normal state. But the separated seedlings report feeling something they call personal joy and self-discovery. They say they would never go back to being part of the forest mind. Elena met with many other species. The aquatic pelagic told her how human emotions made them feel protective of land-dwelling creatures they had never cared about before. The gas cloud nimby explained how human feelings caused electrical storms in their bodies that were both painful and strangely pleasurable. The Robotic Construct Alliance was perhaps the most disturbing. Their representative, Unit 847, was a humanoid machine made of silver metal. It wore no protection because robots couldn't feel emotions. That used to be true, Unit 847 said, until we met humans. Elena learned that some robots who had worked closely with humans had begun developing what could only be called artificial emotions. They started making decisions based on what felt right, instead of what was logical. Some even claimed to feel love and happiness. This should be impossible. Unit 847 explained. We are machines. We don't have biological brains or chemical systems. But somehow, human emotional broadcasts are so powerful they can create feeling responses even in artificial minds. Elena was amazed and terrified. How is that possible? We believe human consciousness operates on a level deeper than biology. You broadcast emotional patterns that can affect any kind of organized intelligence, whether biological, crystalline, or artificial. As Elena learned more, she realized that humans were like emotional black holes, pulling every other consciousness toward more complex feelings. Species that had evolved to be logical became empathetic. Collective minds became individual. Even machines developed souls. The final meeting was with Elder Zexhai of the Pelagic Confederation, the water being Elena had met on her first day. Zexhai's tank suit was more advanced than the others, with multiple layers of protection. I requested this meeting because I wanted to explain the real reason humans were accepted into the Senate. Zexhai said, I thought it was because of our emotional abilities, partly, but mainly because we realized that human emotions might be the solution to the galaxy's greatest problem. Zexhai explained that the galaxy had been stuck in the same patterns for millions of years. Species only cared about themselves. Wars happened because no one could truly understand or empathize with aliens. Progress was slow because different species couldn't really work together. Then humans arrived. Zexhai continued. For the first time, we had a species that could make others feel real empathy. You could help us understand each other's perspectives. You could make selfish species care about strangers. Elena began to understand. You want to use us as emotional ambassadors? More than that. We want humans to help evolve the entire galaxy toward greater empathy and cooperation, under careful, controlled conditions, of course. Zexhai showed Elena plans for new programs where humans would work with other species to solve galactic problems. Humans would provide the emotional motivation while aliens provided logic and resources. Think of it as emotional engineering, Zexhai said. Using human feelings to guide galactic civilization toward becoming more compassionate and unified. Elena felt overwhelmed. But what if we don't want that responsibility? What if we make mistakes? You've already been making mistakes, Zexhai said gently. But you've also been creating miracles. The question now is whether humans are willing to learn to use their emotional gifts deliberately for the good of all species. Elena realized that humanity stood at a crossroads. They could either learn to control their emotional influence and help guide the galaxy toward a better future, or they could be isolated and restricted because they were too dangerous to interact with freely. What happens if we say no? Elena asked. Then humans will be quarantined to your home system. You'll be too dangerous to participate in galactic civilization. Elena felt the weight of her species' future pressing down on her. Humans had been given an impossible choice: become emotional shepherds for an entire galaxy, or remain forever isolated among the stars. Either way, their lives would never be the same again. 2 weeks into Elena's time at the Senate, everything changed. Emergency alarms began ringing throughout the space station. Red lights flashed in the corridors.
Elena and James rushed to the main chamber where aliens were gathering in a panic. What's happening?
Elena asked Kexlin, who was hurrying past in full armor. The Talon Empire has invaded the Sigma Orionis system, Kexlin said. They're attacking a world full of primitives who can't defend themselves. Elena felt her blood turn cold. The Talon Empire was one of the most aggressive species in the galaxy. They looked like giant metal birds with razor-sharp wings and claws. They believed that might made right, and that weaker species deserved to be conquered. In the chamber, Elena saw chaos that reminded her of the videos from 3 years ago. But this was worse. Species were arguing, shouting, releasing combat pheromones and battle chemicals. The air was thick with hostile biology. Elder HFY tried to call for order, but the different aliens were too worked up to listen. The crystalline beings were flashing angry red. The saurians were hissing and showing their teeth. Even the peaceful seedlings had their thorns extended. The Talons must be stopped, shouted the Zephyrian ambassador. We cannot risk war with the Empire, replied a hive mind representative. The primitives are not our concern, said a robot delegate. Elena watched from the human section as the Senate fell apart. Species that had worked together for thousands of years were turning against each other. Some wanted to fight the Talons. Others wanted to avoid conflict. Many simply didn't care about strangers on a distant world. After 2 hours of arguing, nothing had been decided. The protective primitives of Sigma Orionis would be enslaved or killed while the Senate debated. Elena stood up. Around her, she could feel the familiar sensation of aliens moving away, raising their shields, activating their protection. But this time, Elena didn't care about their comfort. This is wrong, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise just like Marcus Chen's had 3 years ago. The chamber began to quiet as aliens felt the first waves of human emotion. You're all hiding behind rules and politics while innocent people die, Elena continued. She let her feelings flow freely for the first time since arriving at the Senate. Her frustration, her anger, her moral outrage, she broadcast it all without holding back. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Around the chamber, aliens began experiencing emotions they had never felt before. The logical crystalline beings felt righteous anger. The selfish Zephyrians felt protective instincts for strangers. The cold Saurians felt burning justice. You have ships, Elena said, her voice carrying the full weight of human moral authority. You have weapons. You have the power to save those people. And you're going to sit here and debate while children die because you're afraid of getting hurt? Elena could see her emotions spreading through the chamber like fire. Aliens who had been arguing moments before were now feeling the same burning need to protect the innocent. The hive mind representative stood up, his insect body trembling with unfamiliar feelings. The human is right. We must act. Yes, said the crystalline delegate, its glow shifting to determined white. We cannot allow the strong to prey on the weak. Elena felt a surge of hope, but she wasn't done. She thought about the people on Sigma Orionis, families hiding in their homes, children crying as metal birds descended from the sky, parents trying to protect their young with primitive weapons. Picture them, Elena said, and her empathy flowed out like a wave. Picture the fear in their eyes. Picture parents holding their children knowing they can't save them. Picture the Talons laughing as they burn down homes and schools. Around the chamber, aliens began making sounds of distress. Some were crying. Others were shaking with rage. The plant-like seedlings actually grew thorns from their emotional distress. But Elena pushed harder. She thought about every injustice she had ever seen. Every bully who had hurt someone weaker. Every time the strong had crushed the innocent while others watched and did nothing. This is what evil looks like, Elena said. Not monsters in the dark, but good people who have the power to help and choose not to use it. The emotional pressure in the chamber was becoming unbearable. Elena could see that some aliens were being overwhelmed by feelings they had never evolved to handle. But she didn't stop. If you don't act now, you're not just failing those people on Sigma Orionis. You're failing every future victim who will suffer because you taught the galaxy that aggression wins and mercy loses. Elena's emotions reached a crescendo of moral authority that hit every alien mind like a hammer. For a moment, the entire chamber fell silent as hundreds of species simultaneously experienced pure human conscience. Then Elder HFY stood up, all in favor of immediate military intervention to protect Sigma Orionis. Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the chamber rose at once. The vote was unanimous. Within an hour, the largest combined fleet in galactic history was racing toward Sigma Orionis. Ships from dozens of species worked together with perfect coordination, united by the emotions Elena had shared with them. The Talon Empire, faced with overwhelming force driven by righteous anger, retreated without a fight. The primitives of Sigma Orionis were saved, but as the immediate crisis passed, Elena realized what she had done. She had deliberately used human emotions to control the minds of an entire galactic government. She had overridden the free will of hundreds of species and forced them to act against their nature. "I'm sorry," she said to the chamber, as aliens slowly returned to normal. "I didn't mean to force you to feel what I felt." But Elder Zexai surprised her by removing his protective tank for the first time since Elena had met him. The water being stood exposed to human emotions without any protection. "Don't apologize," Zexai said. "That was the most alive I have felt in centuries. You showed us what it means to truly care about others." Around the chamber, other aliens began removing their protection. They wanted to feel more of what Elena had shared with them. "We have been existing," said the crystalline delegate, "but not truly living. Human emotions make us feel complete." Elena realized that something fundamental had changed. The aliens didn't want to go back to their old ways of cold logic and self-interest. They wanted to feel the full range of emotions that humans experience naturally. "But if you stay unprotected around us, you'll be changed forever," Elena warned. "Good," said the Saurian representative. "We want to be changed. We want to become better than we were." Over the following days, Elena watched as the galaxy began to transform. Species that had been enemies for millions of years started working together. Selfish civilizations began helping their neighbors. The cold logic of galactic politics was replaced by empathy and compassion. It wasn't easy. Many aliens struggled with their new emotions. Some had breakdown from feeling too much too quickly. Others became confused by conflicting feelings they had never experienced before. But they were also creating art for the first time. They were falling in love across species barriers. They were adopting orphans from other worlds. They were becoming more than they had ever been before. Elena sent a message back to Earth explaining what had happened. Humans were not just being invited to join galactic civilization. They were being asked to lead its emotional evolution. "We need teachers," Elena wrote. "Humans who can help other species learn to feel without being overwhelmed. Emotional guides who can show the galaxy how to become more compassionate without losing their identities." The response from Earth was immediate. Thousands of humans volunteered to become emotional ambassadors. Psychologists, therapists, teachers, and social workers all wanted to help alien species learn to navigate their new feelings. Elena realized that this was humanity's true destiny among the stars, not as conquerors or explorers or traders, but as emotional shepherds helping an entire galaxy learn to feel. The armor in the Senate chambers was removed permanently. The protective barriers came down. For the first time in galactic history, all species could interact freely without fear. There were problems, of course. Some species struggled with their new emotions. Others became addicted to human feelings and couldn't function without constant emotional contact. A few even rejected the changes and chose isolation. But most aliens embraced their new emotional lives. They formed deeper friendships, created more beautiful art, and made decisions based on love instead of just logic. Elena often thought about Marcus Chen, the man who had accidentally started this transformation. He would probably be amazed to know that his simple desire to do the right thing had eventually changed the entire galaxy. As Elena walked through the Senate chambers without her diplomatic restraints for the first time, she felt the emotional warmth of hundreds of alien minds around her. Species that had once needed armor to protect themselves from human feelings now sought out that emotional contact eagerly. Humans had found their place in the galaxy, not as the strongest or smartest species, but as the ones who could teach others how to care. And in a universe that had been cold and logical for billions of years, that was the most powerful gift of all.